How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ayin Vav, Daf 76 of Masechta BavaBasra. Friends, Daf Ayin Vav is a very gewaldige daf. It's like Bava. It's a Bava daf. It's about kinyonim, about kinyan meshicha, kinyan mesira, shtar. A lot of interesting stuff. Very different, of course, from the past few days. The past few days have been extremely interesting, very agadic, very, very interesting stuff. Today is also interesting, but in another kind of way, in an awesome kind of way. About kinyonim and things. So here we go. A very stark contrast. But, since, of course, it's BavaBasra, it's not that big of a daf. So here we go. We are going to start at the two dots on Daf Ayin Hamud Beis, about 15 lines from the bottom. Itmar, it was stated Sfina, when it comes to a boat. Rav Omar says, Rav came into Moshach Kol Shu Kana Ushmul Omar Loi Kana Ad Sheyimshoch Es Kula. Very interesting machlokes. So if you have a boat, so a boat is better metaltalin, and so you can be konet with the kinyan meshicha. With kinyan meshicha, I guess you take a rope and you pull it, you give it a tug, and you're konet that way. The shaila is, how much do you have to move it? Okay, how much do you have to move it? So again, Imar, we stated Svino when it comes to a boat. Rav Omer came in Shemoshach Kol Shu Kana. Rav says you just have to move it a shtickle. You have to move it a little bit, give it a tug, and mazel tov on the new acquisition. Shmuel Amar says, Shmuel lo kana ad sheyimshoch es kula. Shmuel says, no, you have to pull the whole thing, meaning you have to get the tail to where the nose was. You know, if it's 100 feet long, so you have to pull it 100 feet. Fine. So givaldig. So lema ketanoid. Let's say that the machlokas between Rav and Shmuel is like a machlokas tanoim. Keitzad b'mesira. Okay, so there's a kinyan mesira and a kinyan meshicha. So mesira, right, a behema gasa is nicknamed b'mesira, okay, and a behema daka is nicknamed b'meshicha. So mesira is be'etzem the owner kind of taking the initiative. And let's say if you have like a cow or something, you have a reins, you pull it with that, you have something to hold on to. So the owner of the cow would like give the reins to the buyer, and by him giving it, so then that would be the Maisa Kinyan. Meshicha would be that the buyer gives a pull. Okay, so by behema gasa, I guess the standard way would be that it would be a mesira, whereas by behema daka it would be, I guess, makes more sense, as the Rashbam says. Right, he says, what does the Rashbam say? Ketzad behema, about 20 lines from the bottom of Rashbam. Behema gasa nicknames b'mesira the Tanab b'Masechta b'Perek Rishon de Kiddushin. Behema gasa nicknames b'mesira v'adaka meshicha v'svara ba'almu. It's just a svara. It's logical. Deha orcha ba'achi v'ha orcha ba'achi. That it's because generally a behema gasa would be nicknamed by the owner giving the reins. Right, we're going to learn about it a little bit more now. And by behema daka, like a sheep or something. So behema gasa would be like a cow. Behema daka would be like a sheep. The buyer would give it a pull. Okay. So let's say the machlokes between Rav, who says you have to just give it a shtickle tug, and Shmuel, who says you have to give it a grosser tug, right? You have to pull it the whole way. So it's machlokes tanoim. Keitzad b'mesira. So what does mesira look like? So if you have a cow, for example, ochza betalfa. So if on the owner's instructions, the buyer just simply grabbed it by its hooves, he didn't necessarily move it or whatever, move it from like one place to another, but the buyer grabbed it by the hooves, besaira, or by its hair, beukif shaleh, by its saddle, b'shalev shaleh, or by its whatever it's schlepping. Befumbia shebefia, the bit that's in its mouth, whatever that is. Bezuk shebetzavora, the bell that's around its neck. And any of those things, kana, even though he didn't necessarily move the animal, but that would be enough just to hold it by its hair or something like that. Ketzad b'meshicha, what would a kinyan meshicha look like? Kore lavi ba viba. So of course, if you'd actually like pull the animal, that would be a kinyan meshicha. But alternatively, if you call it to you and it comes to you, or you give it a shtickle tap with a stick, and and off it goes in front of you. So that would be a kinyan meshicha, actually moving the animal. So according to the Tanakama, once the I guess by kinyan meshicha, once the animal lifts a hand and a foot, so that's already the kinyan. Even though it was only one hand and one foot, so it wasn't a full stride, and yet that would be considered enough. Sounds like Rav. Rab Achai v'Amrila Rab Acha Omer ad shetahalich malei koimasu. No, it has to walk its entire, I guess, height. It has to take a full stride. So Rav Tanakama. So say that Rab, who says that you just have to move the boat a shtickle, holds like the Tanakama, who just says that once the animal lifts up one leg and one hand, that's enough. Even though it didn't actually go anywhere. Ushmuel da Amar ki Rab Acha, and Shmuel says like Rab Acha, who says that it actually has to move a full stride. So Amar lach Rav is not going to hear of it. He's going to say that both the Tanakama and Rav Acha agree with him when it comes to a boat. I could say even like Rav Acha. When Rav Acha says that the sheep has to make a full stride, that's only by animals, not by boats. Because when it comes to an animal, even though it lifts up a hand and a foot, it hasn't actually gone anywhere because the other hand and foot are still in place. So therefore, that's what Rabbi Acha says, it's not enough, it has to go full stride. When it comes to a boat, came to nado boat porta, nado lakula. But by a boat, when you give it a tug and it moves a shtickle, the whole boat moved a shtickle. So therefore, Rav argues that Rabbi Acha would agree with him when it comes to a boat. And Shmuel, who says that by the boat you have to pull it the whole way, he would say that even the Tanakama, who says that by the sheep it just lifts up one leg and one foot and that's enough. That right? Oh my gosh! So the Tanakama argues Shmuel would agree with him. Shmuel Amar Anadam Afilu Tanakama. Adkan lo Amar Tanakama Elo Bibaile Chaim. When the Tanakama says that 1 foot and 1 hand is enough, that's by Baile Chaim. They came to Meikara, Yad V'Regel, they came to Me'akar, Yad V'Regel, Idoch L'Me'akar Kaima. Because when it comes to a sheep, once it lifts up the first hand and foot, sure, the other one hasn't moved yet, but it's part of its stride. It lifts up a hand and a foot, and it puts it down, and the other one, so once it starts moving, it's just part of a sort of movement that is going to result in the whole animal moving, which is not necessarily the case by the boat. But by a boat, you could move it a shtickle and that's it. So therefore, that's not enough just to move it a shtickle and that's it. You have to pull the boat its whole length, and only at that point would we be satisfied that it is a proper kinyan meshicha. There's all these little flies that have been flying around this apartment for the past few weeks. I'm attributing it to the summer. It's just, I think there's just more insects around in the summer. Nothing major. They're like fruit flies. The thing is that I don't really have fruit out. Anyways, hopefully they'll go away. Hopefully it's the end of the fly season. Let's go weiter. I only said that because 2 flies just flew on my Gemara. All right. Lema kahane tanoe de tanya. So let's say that the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel is like the following machlokes. Here we go. Very interesting stuff. The Tanya the Belunar says, Svina niknes b'meshicha. A boat is, you can make a kinyan on a boat when you give it a pull, a kinyan meshicha. Reb Nosson Omer, Reb Nosson says Svina v'osius. Reb Nosson says a boat, and also osius. What's osius? Osius is a shtar. So for example, if Shimon has a shtar that says that Shimon lent $1,000 to Reuven, and therefore he has the right to collect $1,000 from Reuven, Shimon can sell that shtar to Levi for $750, and he says, Levi, look, pay me $750, this shtar is yours, that entitles you to collect $1,000 from Reuven. Right? Shimon didn't want to deal with collecting it from Reuven. He says, look, Levi, you give me $750 cash right now. The shtar is yours. Work it out with Reuven, you'll get $1,000. So basically he's selling his shtar to Levi. So Svina v'osi, it says Rav Nosson that when it comes to acquiring a boat or when it comes to acquiring a shtar, so niknos b'meshicha uvishtar. So by a boat and by the shtar, it's not enough just a kinyan meshicha. You need also a shtar, and we're going to have to explain what this means. You might have some questions like, what does that mean? Like, how are you acquiring a shtar b'meshicha? That seems weird, but also, why are you acquiring a boat b'shtar? Okay, we're going to have to unpack this a shtickle. But we're saying that by the right. So let's say by the document, when Shimon sells this document to Levi, it's not enough. Kinyan meshicha. Again, it's going to develop. But also, Shimon would have to write a separate document and give that to Levi. Now Levi will have this separate document that says that the shtar belongs to him, to Levi, and we're actually going to see at the end of today's daf what exactly that looks like. So, okay, but again, we have to go weiter because this brisa is in its current form is not final. But be'etzem, what the brisa has said so far, because it will be important for moving on, that the Tanna Kama says that a boat is niknes b'meshicha by pulling it. Reb Nosson says that a boat and a shtar are niknes b'meshicha, but also need a separate shtar. Okay, let's go on because we're going to have to explain what this means. Now, the Gemara asks, Osius man d'chashmayu. First of all, why is Reb Nosson talking about Shimon selling a shtar to Levi? Tanna Kama never said anything about it. Tanna Kama is talking about a boat. All of a sudden, Reb Nosson is saying a boat and also a shtar. But we're not talking about stars. We're talking about boats. So who's talking about stars? So you have to add some words to the brisa. This is how to teach it. Svina, when it comes to a boat, niknes b'meshicha. A boat is you make a kinyan by pulling it. Okay. The osius b'mesira. And if Shimon wants to sell his document to Levi, so then, says the Tanna Kama, Shimon simply gives the document to Levi. Okay. And now it is Levi's. Alright. Fine. And that's enough according to the Tanna Kama. Right, so according to the Tanna Kama, by a boat, the buyer pulls it. By a document, Shimon would give it to Levi. Fine. Reb Nosson says, Reb Nosson, Svina v'osius, that actually both by a boat as well as by Shimon selling his document to Levi, niknos b'meshicha uveshtar. Okay, so it needs a meshicha and a shtar. Okay, we're not done yet with understanding this, but the important thing here is that we see that the Tanna Kama is talking about both a boat as well as a document. So if you're asking why all the sinners are also talking about a document, the Tanna Kama is also talking about a document. Tanna Kama says that a boat is acquired by meshicha and a document is acquired by mesira. And then comes Reb Nosson to say that both a boat and a document are niknos b'meshicha uveshtar. Okay, let's go weiter because we're not done. Stuff still is a little weird here. So shtar l'svina lamali metatli. So the Gemara says, wait, 1 second, something's still weird here. Why would Reb Nosson be saying that a boat is acquired with a document? A boat is metaltlin. There's no, right? Metaltlin is a niknes, be'agbal. Or you could be koni mekomo. But it's not. You don't write a shtar for a document. So why are we writing a shtar for a boat? So ela lavochi katani. Rather, this is pshat, okay? And I think this is best. I'm going to be final. Svina niknes b'meshicha v'osius b'mesira. Okay, so the Tanna Kama hasn't changed, okay? The Tanna Kama says that a boat is acquired by the buyer giving it a pull. If Shimon wants to sell a document to Levi, that is acquired by Shimon giving the document to Levi. Fine, okay. Svina niknes b'meshicha v'osius b'mesira. Now, Reb Nosson Omer. Now says Reb Nosson, Svina, when it comes to a boat, b'meshicha. Oh, okay. So Reb Nosson is saying the same thing as the Tanna Kama, that when it comes to a boat, the buyer gives it a pull. Now, v'osius, when it comes to Shimon selling his document to Levi, bishtar. So the the Gosa Vitzionim and also the Rashbam points out what it really needs to say is b'mesira uveshtar. That if Shimon wants to sell his document to Levi, he needs to give the document to Levi, but he also needs to write a document to Levi, saying that he's selling the shtar and the shibud of the shtar to Levi. Now, Sfina b'Mashicha hainu Tanakama. Okay, it's such a funny Gemara. I keep on saying again. We're going to explain. Things are just weird. There's so many weird things in this Gemara. We keep on having to now we're going to pick apart this part, but now we're going to pick apart that part. Every part has stuff that needs to be picked apart. And now we're going to focus on this part, now we're going to focus on that part. So right now we're focusing on the first part, which is the fact that both the Tanakama and Reb Nosson said that when it comes to a boat, it's nicknames b'meshicha, and that's going to be our tie-in to Rav and Shmuel. Later, we're going to get back to the document and Reb Nosson and the meshicha and the shtar okay. Again, focusing now on the first part where both the Tanakama and Reb Nosson are saying that a boat is nicknames b'meshicha. So hainu Tanakama. So they're saying the same thing. That's weird. So what we want to say is, well, maybe they're not saying the same thing. What are they saying? Yes, they're both saying that a boat is nicknames b'meshicha. But maybe the Tanakama and Reb Nosson have differing opinions on what constitutes meshicha. Ala Rav and Shmuel. Rav says it's a little bit. Shmuel says it's a lot of it. So El Rav Shmuel ike benayu. So let's say that the difference between the Tanakama and Reb Nosson is like the Machlokas Rav and Shmuel. So let's say the Rav and Shmuel, Machlokas Rav and Shmuel is like the Machlokas Tanakama and Reb Nosson, meaning that the Tanakama is saying that the boat is nicknamed b'Mashicha like Shmuel, that you have to do a complete Mashicha, and comes Reb Nosson to say, actually, you don't have to do a complete Mashicha, even a little bit would be enough, like Rav. So we say, no. T'chuliyama ike Rav, ike Shmuel, no. The Tanakama and Reb Nosson hold the same thing when it comes to Mashicha on the boat, whether they hold like Rav, that you just have to do a little bit, whether they hold like Shmuel, they have to do a lot of it, but they don't necessarily argue about what constitutes Mashicha. Look, and they agree when it comes to the boat, that a boat is nicknamed b'Mashicha. Tanakama and Reb Nosson agree on that. Whether it's like Rav's Mashicha, a little bit, or like Shmuel's, a lot of it, but that's a technicality, but they don't argue about that, and they agree that the boat is nicknamed b'Mashicha. Now, ki plige, where do they argue? Be'osius, where they argue now is about the document. When Shimon wants to sell a document to Levi, the question there is it enough for Shimon to simply give the document to Levi, or does there need to be a separate document that documents that Shimon is giving this document to Levi, and that Levi can now collect it, and all the shibud from Reuven now belongs to Levi? So Kipliga with Be'osius, where it argues with regard to the shtar, when Shimon is selling a shtar to Levi. And this is what Reb Nosson says to the Tanakama. B'svina v'adai moidina loch. When it comes to the boat, I agree with you. Svina's nickname is b'Mashicha. Be'osius, but when it comes to a shtar, Levi says, Shimon is selling a shtar to Levi. I'ika shtar in ilo lo. If there is an additional, if there's a shtar in addition to the Masira, says the Tanakama, then that works. Well, what? If there's a shtar in addition to the Masira, according to Reb Nosson, then it works. If not. Whereas the Tanakama says Masira is enough by a shtar. Uveflukto dani tanoi, and it is like the following machlokes tanoi. The Tana, as we learned in a brisa, osius niknis b'Masira divrei Rebbe. Oh, so Rebbe says like the Tanakama that Shimon selling a document to Levi, Masira alone is enough. V'chacham omrim, whereas the Chachamim say ben kosav v'lo mosav ben mosav v'lo kosav, whether he wrote the document, but whether he wrote a document for the document, but he never gave it, right? Meaning when Shimon's selling a shtar to Levi, whether he wrote a document, but he never actually gave the shtar that he's selling to Levi, ben mosav, whether he gave it, whether there was a Masira v'lo kosav, but there wasn't a shtar, lo kana. That doesn't work. You have to give the shtar that you're selling, and also write a separate shtar. So we see that the machlokas between Tanna Kama and Reb Nosson is like the machlokas between Rebbe and the Chachamim. So that's some Tanna Kama saying like Rebbe and Reb Nosson saying like the Chachamim of that later brisa. So b'mai ukimta ki Rebbe. So one second. So we're saying therefore that the Tanna Kama of the brisa that says that when Shimon sells his shtar to Levi, Mesira alone is enough. So that Tanna Kama by a shtar is like Rebbe. So b'mai ukimta ki Rebbe. So we're saying that it's like Rebbe, but Svina Nami Tikne b'Mesira. But if we're saying that the Tanna Kama is Rebbe, so sure, he says that our Tanna Kama says that a document, it's so confusing because there's the document that Shimon's selling to Levi, but there's also the document that he needs to write about the original document. Maybe we'll call, when Shimon is selling a document to Levi, we'll just call what the Gemara calls, which is Osius. Okay, so if I say Osius, it's referring to the document that Shimon's selling to Levi, and then the shtar that we're talking about is the shtar that Shimon needs to write and give to Levi, that in it says that he's selling the Osius to Levi, and that Levi can collect everything. So we're saying that the Tanna Kama who says that by Osius Mesira is enough is like Rebbe who says that by Osius Mesira is enough. But if the Tanna Kama is like Rebbe, then that would mean, now the thing is that Rebbe says that when it comes to a boat, Mesira is enough. Now Rebbe says when it comes to a boat, Mesira is enough. Whereas the Tanna Kama says that by a boat you have to do Meshicha. So how can we say that the Tanna Kama is like Rebbe? If that's the case, then the boat should be Niknes b'Mesira. Which is what the Gemara asked. Right? Mayu Kim to Rebbe, we're saying that the Tanna Kama is like Rebbe. Svina Nami Tikne b'Mesira. Well then, the Tanna Kama should say that the boat is Niknes b'Mesira, not b'Meshicha. The Tana is, we learn in the Brisa, Svina Niknes b'Mesira de Rebbe. Rebbe says that a boat is acquired b'Mesira. Whereas the Chacham say, Lo kana ad Shayim Shachena, whereas the Chacham say, no, you have to do on a boat a kinyan Meshicha. Oh, Shayiskar es Mikoma, or that you rent the place where, I guess if it's in a place that is owned by the owner, so if you rent that place from the owner, so immediately you rent, you'll get the boat as well. Okay. So how can we say that the Tanna Kama is Rebbe? The Tanna Kama says that you do a kinyan Meshicha on the boat, but Rebbe says you do a kinyan Mesira. So Lokasha kam b'Rishus Rabim kam b'Simta. So we say it's no problem when Rebbe says they do a kinyan Mesira on the boat. That would be if it's in Rishus Harabim, as we're going to learn in a few minutes, that a kinyan Mesira works in Rishus Harabim, but a kinyan Meshicha cannot be done in Rishus Harabim. That has to be done in a place that's jointly owned by the seller and the buyer. So because it's in Rishus Harabim, that is why it would have to be a kinyan Mesira. But if it's in Rishus, if it's in a jointly owned, if it's in a Simta, a place that is shaykh to both the seller and the buyer, well then it would be able to be Meshicha, which is what the Tanna Kama is talking about. So so the Gemara says, wait, but 1 second. So we're saying that when Rebbe says that a boat is acquired b'Mesira, it's talking about it's in Rishus Harabim. That's why it's b'Mesira. But then Amos Sefer. But then I don't understand the opinion of the rabbis who argue on Rebbe, because they say that a Meshicha is enough. But how can you do it if we're talking about Rishus Harabim? How could they suggest that a Meshicha or even renting the space? How is that shaykh in Rishus Harabim? So Amos Sefer v'chacham lo kana ad sheyim shechena, that the kinyan is a kinyan Meshicha, and then the Gos V'Tzionim importantly adds, ad sheyiskor es makom, or until the buyer rents out the place where it is. But even if Rishus Harabim, miman ogir. If we're talking about Rishus Harabim, who's the buyer renting from? It's Rishus Harabim. It doesn't belong to anybody. It's the public. V'su, and more so, Meshich Rishus Harabim mikanya. You can't make a kinyan Meshicha in Rishus Harabim. So how could the Chacham be making these suggestions if we're talking about Rishus Harabim? Abai and Rav Adam Tabayu, Abai and Rav both say Mesira Kona Rishus Harabim, that a kinyan Mesira works in Rishus Harabim, v'chatzor she'ena shel shneim, or in a chatzor that doesn't belong to both of them. So the owner just kind of gives, let's say, the reins to the buyer, and that's the kinyan. Meshicha, when it comes to kinyan Meshicha, kona besimta of a chatzar shishal shneim, in a simta, kind of like a small, I guess, alleyway that's considered shaykh to both of them, or jointly, or a chatzar that they own jointly, their kinyan Meshicha works over there. V'agba kona b'chol makom. As we saw recently, Hagba, a kinyan Hagba, picking up, works anywhere. It's just a rab, it's just a yachid anywhere. So again, what's our question? Our question is, we want to say that our Tanakama is like Rebbe, because our Tanakama says that by Osius, Mesira is enough, and that's what Rebbe says. But the thing is that our Tanakama says that by a boat, it's a kinyan Meshicha. Rebbe says that by a boat, it's a kinyan Mesira. We wanted to say Rebbe is talking about Rishus HaRabim, our Tanakh is talking about Rishus HaYachid. But how could Rebbe be talking about Rishus HaRabim? Because the Chacham argue on Rebbe, and they say things that wouldn't make sense in Rishus HaRabim. For example, a kinyan Meshicha, or renting a space. So my achim shachen and amidu ka'amar, umay achi iskars mikomadu ka'amar hachi kamar. So we say no. It is talking about Rishus HaRabim. It is talking about Rishus HaRabim. Okay, so how could the Chachamim suggest that you pull it? They do a kinyan Meshicha or rent it in Rishus HaRabim. How does that make sense? Hachi kamar. This is what the Chachamim are saying. Achim shacheno me Rishus HaRabim lesimta. Meaning, do a kinyan Meshicha not in Rishus HaRabim, but pull it from Rishus HaRabim into an alleyway, into a side area, because there you can make a kinyan Meshicha. Don't make a kinyan Mesira in Rishus HaRabim, rather make a kinyan Meshicha in a simta. V'im Rishus Bailami, and if it's the Rishus that belongs, if you're in a Rishus that belongs to the owner, well then, Lokon Achis Kars Makoma, then you rent the area where the boat is, and then you could be kona the boat that way. But if that's the case, then it sounds like Abai and Rava, who say that that Mesira works in Rishus HaRabim. That sounds like it's like Rebbe. Rebbe is saying that this boat is nicknamed Mesira in Rishus HaRabim. The Chacham seem to be saying, that sounds b'di'evid. Really, what you should do is a kinyan Meshicha, pull it into Rishus HaYachid. And Rava, Abai and Rava are saying that a kinyan Mesira works in Rishus HaRabim. Sounds like that's like Rebbe, not like the Chacham. But in general, it would make sense that it would be passing at the Chacham, not like a Das Yachid. So Amar Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi, Ida Amar le chazeku knei ochinami. So Rav Ashi says, look, no. The Chachamim agree with Rebbe, and Abai and Rava are saying that the Chachamim also. And says Rav Ashi, look, if the owner says to the buyer, look, take the boat. So then, if that's the case, if he's saying take the boat, so basically he's saying make a kinyan Mesira, it's a kinyan Mesira in Rishus HaRabim. Well then, everybody would agree. The Chacham would also agree that would work. Kinyan Mesira, as Abai and Rava point out, kinyan Mesira works in Rishus HaRabim. Here we're talking about the Amar Leich Mashoch Uknei. They're in Rishus HaRabim, and the buyer says, go pull it and be kona that way. So now it's like, wait, this is confusing. Kinyan Mesira works in Rishus HaRabim, but he's not saying Kinyan Mesira, he's saying Kinyan Meshicha. That's weird. So if he really meant a Kinyan Meshicha, well, you can't make a Kinyan Meshicha in Rishus HaRabim. Okay, so you're going to have to pull it into a simta. Rebbe says, you don't need to, he didn't literally mean a Kinyan Meshicha. He was just saying, look, I'm giving it to you, now you can take it. Right, so Mar Sava, Rebbe holds, no, the Chacham hold Kpeda. The Chacham say that when he says pull it, he literally means, the seller really means pull it. Well, how can you pull it? You can't pull it in Rishus HaRabim, so you're going to have to pull it into a simta. Whereas Rebbe says no, when he says pull, he doesn't literally mean pull it, he means, look, it's yours. Kinyan Mesira, take it, and now pull it, bring it wherever you want, it's yours now. Okay. But everyone would agree that be'etzem a kinyan Mesira works in Rishus HaRabim. Amar Rapapa says, when it comes to Osius, if Shimon is selling a document to Levi, so he has to write a separate document. If Shimon is selling a document to Levi, he has to write a separate document. What's the base? Kani loch, it is acquired to you. Who this document? I guess in our example, the ability to collect $1,000 from Ruvain, v'chol shibuda debei, and anything that's meshubed to this document, it all belongs to you now. So he has to write a separate document, like Reb Nosson is saying, like Rebbe's Chachamim are saying. Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi felt that you didn't need to actually additionally write a shtar. Rav Ashi, I said over this teaching before Rav Kahana v'amarisle, and I said to Rav Kahana, time l'chasav le'ochi, halokasav le'ochi lokani. I don't understand. If Shimon is selling his document to Levi, it's not enough to just give Levi the document. He has to write a separate document now. And if he doesn't write the separate document, so then it doesn't actually belong to Levi. He can't collect it. What does Levi just? He can't actually collect this document. What does he need? He needs to just plug up a flask or something to use as like a random, for random household chores. So Amali in lotzer v'lotzer, and says of Kahana, that's exactly correct. If there is no additional document, then for all intents and purposes, yeah, sure, use it for household needs and stuff. It's not a good sale. You need to have that separate document. That was daf ein vav of Masechta BavaBasra. It was a gewaldige daf. It was good geschmacke Bava Gemaras. Of course, BavaBasra, it's not that long, which is very pleasant. And we saw some interesting machlokes Rav and Shmuel about a kinyan on a boat. The Rav says even just pulling it a shtickle is enough. Shmuel says you have to pull it the whole way. It's talking very interesting. And then we learned along the way some other interesting halachas. The halachas from Abaye and Rava talking very interesting. That Rishus Arabim, right? Kinyan Mesira works in Rishus Arabim, and a Meshicha works in a Rishus that belongs to both of them, and a Kinyan Agba works anywhere. That was super interesting. Peace out.